Jubilant Stories, unearthing the power of together.
I'm Mary Jennings, I live in Winchcombe.
I'm James Wojcinski and I live in Winchcombe.
So I've heard a little bit about yarn bombing. I have no idea what it is and what your involvement has been. So tell me a little bit about that story and how it started.
The yarn bombing is a group of people that get together and they knit incognito, really, don't they? They're not out there to be spotted or known who they are. And they just go around having fun and cover as many things within the town as possible.
So they knit covers, go on bollards?
Yeah, covers, wacky things. I mean, there was those birds' beaks, weren't there, that were around the bus shelter. And anything that moves.
So how did yarn bombing start in Winchcombe?
Well, it originated from the Wool in Winchcombe exhibition that I was putting on here, and it was just sort of the rumours got going what was going to be happening, and then somebody mentioned about doing the yarn bombing, and the group of ladies got together, and that's just how it just developed and grew.
So how did you find the ladies that did the knitting?
Through a friend, and said, you know, and then they spoke to somebody else. So it was obviously there was one very good knitter out of the group, but I can't obviously divulge them. It's a secret. They were called the Wool Bandits.
The Wool Bandits. Okay, interesting.
And actually, some of the little knitted articles that were put out in the town had little labels on saying knitted by the Wool Bandits. So I think that all added to the kind of like wackiness and jollity of it all, because that really did put a smile on people's faces.
Absolutely. So what happened then when you started the yarn bombing? Or it's got another name as well, hasn't it? Yeah.
Oh, it's yarn bombing, yarn storming. I think what else do they call it?
Guerrilla knitting.
Guerrilla knitting. Yeah.
Okay. So that started here in this gallery.
Well, it started outside, and it was somebody, a business person in the town, well, they came in early in the morning, found it because they were put out at night, and then contacted the Echo, and that's how it sort of grew and got sort of mentioned quite a lot in the newspapers and media.
So what's happened now since it got that publicity? Because I understand you've been involved in the big knit.
The big knit was a separate thing. It was all part of it that happened in the church at St Peter's. So it was just open to everybody of any levels of knitting. They could just join for that day and sit there and knit, whilst being entertained by Shepherd's Crook.
Who are Shepherd's Crook?
Shepherd's Crook are performers who Mary knows very well, and they put together these songs and performances about shepherds' songs.
So the kind of the yarn bombing inspired people in the local town to start knitting.
Yeah.
And then the knitters all came together.
Yeah.
And then they met in the church, and then the musicians came along and entertained the knitters.
Yeah,
that's right. I think generally there was the theme of wool that was going around for a while, and then a lot of things came together all at the same time. So, for example, when some musician friends of ours heard about the Wool Festival, they said, oh, we know some folk songs about shepherds and sheep and so on. We'll do a bit of research and we'll just cast around to see if anybody fancies just forming a singing group. And in fact, that's what they did do. And they had a few rehearsals leading up to the festival, the Wool Festival. And then they were able to sing, perform on the Saturday afternoon in the church, and I think that really added to the atmosphere. I mean, there was a brilliant atmosphere in the church, just with so many people coming together, knitting, and people were in a good mood and just feel relaxed because they're knitting and so on. And then there was a short pause where they had the singers on the altar, and they came all out for atmosphere with outfits on and a shepherd's smock. And other things happened as well. For example, there was a portrait of a local shepherd from years ago from the museum, and they lent it to Jane to have in here. And Sue Ryder, one of their volunteers, is a very good photographer. He went around snapping lambs because it was spring and so on, and they put photos in their window, and people just took it on board.
And they dressed their window as well, Sue Ryder, which was really good, of all knitting needles and wool, and they did very well with selling wool as well, so it was really good.
So the whole community's kind of bought into the whole wool events,
if
you like.
A lot of the shops did really, which was a really nice thing to do. We just went round and said, this is happening, if you want to be involved, do something, and they did.
Because actually the school made felted flags.
Oh yeah.
Forgot about that.
Yeah.
Jackie, who knows how to make felt, she went into the school, and I think she did it with year 3 or 4, and they all made little flags, and then they were hung up in the deli.
Yeah.
So how did people find out, and how did they get involved? What process was it?
The fact that I put a poster up to say William Winchcombe event happening. I didn't call it a festival, then it really did grow into a festival. And people say, oh, what's this about? And what's happening about this? Because I put, please don't, we need your wool, a bit like the old wartime posters, asking people to donate wool and knitting needles, so nobody'd have to expend money on these materials, and they could just donate them back to Sue Ryder. So with everybody saying what's this about, what's happening, new things developed, and other people wanted to sort of get involved, which was great.
And I understand, Mary, that you've had some involvement with a walking group as well locally. So tell me a little bit about that and what relevance that has to community.
Okay, well, Winchcombe Welcomes Walkers is a group of volunteers who put on a walking festival about 3 years ago, and they were very, very successful, and they've managed to run that annually. They've just had the 3rd one. Now, I'm also involved in a group that tries to remember our local saint, St Kenelm, and a friend of ours has written a play about St Kenelm. It's a miracle play, and we've put that on for 2 years. This year I thought, well, as the walks have been so successful, perhaps we could get them on board this year and link up a St Kenelm walk with the miracle play, because in fact the miracle play does take place in 3 venues and you have to walk between each venue. But what we decided to do this year, just to broaden it out to a broader audience, was to try and get some more serious walkers involved and start out from Winchcombe. The walk will be led from Winchcombe up to Hales, and then from Hales to St Kenelm's Well, along the St Kenelm's Way. So in fact, we're getting the expertise of serious walkers leading the general public in a longer walk to meet us at the start of the play. So in that way we're increasing our audience, but also we're bringing 2 groups together in the town, because we've got the drama group and we've also got the walking group, and the 2 things kind of quite naturally meld together, really, to be honest, because Winchcombe is becoming a centre for walking, but we've got this historic element that we want to remember and celebrate as well, so we can bring those 2 things together.
So is there any advice you could give to people that might be around how you build networks across communities and how you get people to be involved in something?
Well, a lot of it as well is the new internet marketing, which I do, Twitter and Facebook and things like that. It's another way forward, which gets instant sort of people saying what's this about and want to get involved. I mean, Winchcombe's probably a little easier because it's more of a village community, but outside the bigger community, I think that's another way forward. And posters, I mean, they work really well. The posters on the door, that's the thing that gets people asking questions.
I think also there's usually 1 or 2 people around who know lots of other people. They've got a lot of interests, and I think that's maybe what happened with the wool festival, really, that the idea was there was a good theme which spoke to a lot of people, because part of Winchcombe's history is around wool, but obviously there's a lot of very active things you can do around it as well, like the knitting and the singing, and people I think quite like to be involved in small groups and where they've got special interests and they can get together with other like-minded people, so to speak. But actually what happened was a lot of those different groups came together. I think that's what came together in the church, really.
Yeah, Margaret, with her charity event, she's been knitting these squares for over 30 years, been getting together as a little group in the home, which I didn't know about until this came. This thing was mentioned, and I went round to their home. So I suggested that they all meet up in the church and knitted for this charity, and some of the young girls from the schools have since, want to get involved doing that. So people just silently get on with things behind closed doors. So it's nice to sort of get these things out in the open and you find out what's happening.
And I think also it's about maybe a common theme that people are interested in, and also just talking to people. I went to the Walkers Welcome Committee, and they were quite pleased to get involved with us. It's a slightly wacky idea, linking up walking with drama, but it does actually work. And I think, you know, just go to somebody with a good idea and be passionate about it, and, you know, look as if you know what you're doing, and people will usually jump on board.
Definitely.